At Parnassum, 1932. An oil painting done on canvas in shades of orange, blue, and gold. Under an orange-red sun, a grand pyramid with a door-shaped entrance outlined thickly in black stretches across both sides of the canvas. The painting is polyphonic in the Klee sense, tiny mosaic-like squares in the pointillist style, overlapping rectangular shades of varying colors, and many perceived layers, all independent yet simultaneous. At a height of 100 centimeters and a width of 126 centimeters, Ad Parnassum is one of Paul Klee's largest paintings. For comparison, on the right are Old Violinist, Fugue in Red, and In the Style of Bach, scaled down proportion to the image on the left. The pyramid in the painting is based on Mount Parnassus, a mountain range in Greece and the legendary home to gods and goddesses of the arts, poetry, and music. The concept of Parnassus has been referenced throughout European history in publications, monuments, and artistic movements to celebrate the legacies of poets and musicians. It is significant how one of Klee's largest and most detailed works is that of the legendary pinnacle of artistic celebration. As previously discussed, Klee connected with music from the past and not so much the music and composers of his time. And yet, Klee has inspired many musicians around the globe, some of whom are still alive today. What do they have to say about Klee? There are several musical compositions that are based on artworks by Klee. Ad Parnassum, in particular, has been set by composers including Jim McNeely, American composer and jazz pianist, and Peter Maxwell Davies, British composer. In 2005, Iris Zighi, a Slovak composer active in Switzerland, composed a multi-movement Ad Parnassum for string orchestra. Each movement is based on a painting by Klee, the final eighth movement being the titular Ad Parnassum. In her own words, Klee's works offer an inexhaustible wealth of inspiration and artistic and technical means in their design. Klee's typical playfulness, poetry, and delicate structures on the one hand, and his clear, heavy lines and somberness on the other, fascinate me and continually stimulate my musical imagination. One of Klee's works that is commonly set to music is Twittering Machine, an oil transfer and watercolor painting on paper on cardboard from 1922. Depicting 4 singing birds attached to a crankshaft, this piece has sparked discussions on the relationship between nature and machinery. At least 10 composers from around the world have set music to Twittering Machine for many different instrumentations. In 1993, American composer Cindy McTee composed The Twittering Machine for chamber orchestra. McTee has had a lifelong fascination with Klee's work and, like Zighi, she recognizes Klee's unique style as a stimulating harmony between the playful and the somber. In The Twittering Machine, she contrasts fast and slow tempos in order to represent the whimsical, puppet-like, mechanistic, ironic, and playful versus the lyrical field of transparent color. Another work commonly set to music is Ancient Sound, an oil on cardboard painting from 1925. With its evocative title and polyphonic style, one can imagine how the painting could inspire musicians. Composers that set music to Ancient Sound include Spanish composer Benet Casablancas, American composer George Crumb and Gunther Schuller, and Hungarian composer Sándor Veres. In 1986, Japanese composer and pianist Takashi Kako released his album Klee with Ancient Sound as the album art cover. Klee is a piano cycle of 12 movements. Each movement is based on a painting by Klee, the last movement being the titular ancient sound. In his interview with Sankei News, Kako compares the musicality of Klee with other artists. In the case of Picasso or Van Gogh, the power of the artwork suppresses the music. But Klee's work has a space where music can exist. In terms of literature, it has the presence of poetry rather than novels, making it easy for the recipient's imagination to blend in. It is evident how Klee's art has had a particularly unique effect on musical creativity. Even more telling is how each of these composers from different parts of the world appeared to be affected in different ways. In 1992, Chinese-born American composer Tan Dun composed the symphony Death and Fire, Dialogue with Paul Klee. Tan Dun's symphony is divided into sections and inserts, each of which is based on a painting by Klee, including At Parnassum and Twittering Machine. The titular Death and Fire, painted in 1940, is one of Klee's final paintings, and like with Seihi's At Parnassum and Kako's Ancient Sound, it forms the final movement of the symphony. In the program notes for this piece, Tan Dun directly relates Klee's artistic vision with the Chinese aesthetic. Klee was concerned with finding formal means to embody deep universal feelings without bitterness or pathos, using a sophisticated complexity to make a concentrated simplicity. Line, which in his thinking was associated both with melody and dynamics, was a major element in his work. This is closely related to the Chinese aesthetic, which is linear, non-harmonic, and seeks the soul of the work rather than its surface effects. For those of us who practice music, it is actually easy to forget what music is to us, or why or how we experience music. In examining musicality through art, a different medium, we can now recognize music in new ways. Is there a musician inside all of us? Can we express ourselves musically or experience music beyond sound? What can the past teach us about the future? What can art teach us about music? And what can music teach us about art? One thing I have learned from Klee's vision is that music lives in everything. With sound and instrument alone, music cannot survive. Music has survived throughout history because it lives in people, nature, the non-living, memory, and the future. To finish this series, let's listen to one last composer's insight on Paul Klee, Japanese composer Toru Takemitsu, whose composition All in Twilight for solo guitar was inspired by Klee. Klee's works seem to have a magical power similar to the way music captivates people. I believe that just as there is color in music, there is sound hidden within the colors.